Okay, in between here, I'll do some election statistics. Wanted to show you real quick some of this stuff about robotics that we got going here. This is just amazing because we actually have all these different types of robots that are doing everything. Now, this is not, the first rodeo for me to look at robots, but I decided to show something to people because many of these robots, basically, these robots, basically, they are something that is, um, in effect, years old, many, many years old, actually. So it's kind of an interesting thing to look at all these different robots, and people have seen them in warehouses for decades. But the thing is they're getting basically everywhere. They're going everywhere now, and we're getting to see these things show up in restaurants and all kinds of stuff. And it's important to see this because they're very real, and they're very, oh my goodness, they're dangerous to the future of your job. Well, do you have a real job anyhow? I kind of hate to mention that, but we have warehouses running 24/7 now, all the time, and we have all these other areas with basically robots that basically are doing things, and these things are appearing all over the world. They're all over, everywhere in the world. They're in all these different countries. They're in Africa. Obviously, they're in Japan. They're in Los Angeles. They're in San Francisco. They're in Glendale. They're in New York. They're in Canada. You have a Denny's restaurant there. And the thing is if you look at the dates and times on some of this material, we're talking some of this stuff has been out there for years already. And as I was looking at some of the upcoming new types of robots, these are old ones, basically. These designs here, this is a video from 2023. That robot is a 2020 robot. That's 5, 6, 7-year-old robot by design. So when you're looking at these things that are basically, taking your food around and this and that, and you have these different buttons you can push, they get more and more elaborate. They have a cloth ski on them and bigger screens, and they can come out and you can, press what you want to order. So it can come to, so it can take your order, it can go get your order and bring you your order. And, you still need a certain amount of human beings, so to speak. But, the thing is that these robots are just continuing forward. This one in Canada right there. And that's 2003, the year 2003, in Denny's. That's over 3 years ago. So understanding how these robots, and they're getting cheaper, by the way. They're getting cheaper and cheaper as each day goes on, practically. And so you have these. Look at these things. They're going to carry all your stuff for you. And there's all these different ways that you can do things with this stuff, So it's really a fantastic thing to see this stuff all over the place. Where basically, incredible. You've got all these robots, doing your stuff. So I'm going to get into some talking here, and it's going to be like really serious because there's massive numbers on this. I do mean massive numbers, So you've already got these different types of automated bars and stuff that do different things, and now we're just getting different stuff here. So we're seeing all these robots, and they're all over the place. They activate by your phone. There's Uber here. This one here is an Uber. Look at this one again. It's an Uber. This thing, you got this type of robot. Look at these Uber robots. They got two. They're all over the place. This one's two. That one's in 2025, but that's a model that's been around for 5 years previous, right there. So you got all of these different robots out there. Let me get you to this one where you can see what's going on. So we got the ones in the street. They're all over the street. They're everywhere, driving around, They're Uber bots. They're everywhere now, and they're already gone from people talking about, oh, there's dozens and hundreds and thousands, and then tens of thousands, and now they're going at hundreds of thousands. Now we're looking at millions. The number is now we're going to be looking at millions of robots. This is what's going to be happening, manifesting in the next 1 to 2, possibly 3 years. We're going to have these things literally in the millions. So, and if we're talking 5 years from now, we're talking about so many robots that they're going to be doing so many extra things because they keep modifying them. They can do more and more stuff. These ones, your phone basically can keep your food secure that way. You can open it the way the software is made. And these are still really simple devices, basically, but they're quite incredible, actually. So basically, there's all kinds of robots out there that are available, and that you can modify them in all these different ways. The next generation is amazing. We're talking about millions of these things. I would say within a year, there's going to be millions of these all over the United States. And within 5 years, there's going to be so many of these things. We're talking about upwards of a 50% reduction rate in waitress jobs, in burger flipping jobs, because of the new styles of equipment coming into play. What is this? It's called upgrade. It's called perfectly normal. It's what's going to happen. It's technology moving forward for efficiency. So what is the problem? Well, we're on the wrong side of the efficiency. So what we have, frankly, across the country is diabolical opposition to human beings. Because we've known since Reagan that automation was coming in play. There's no surprise here. None whatsoever. There's no surprise. So as we have these people trying to lay out campaigns to waste your time, talking about, oh, there's some way that you can fix this or fix that. Well, yeah, there's some of us that, well, frankly, yeah, we're always working on what's up with something and how do we, fix it. What do we need to consider? What's the real tactics here? There's a lot of people always working on stuff like that. But we have a lot of people that are dumb. They want to take things over. We have the state of California, and the Biden administration did it, to basically use algorithmic isolation. Google's been caught doing it. They've been fined. There's something missing from the federal records of all these hits where Google's been getting hit, and that's the part where the state is trying to hide their liability factor. And it's more than a liability factor. It's treason. The word is called treason because part of what's wrong with elections in California is far beyond what people are looking at on the surface. So as you have all these people thinking that, oh, yeah, well, there's this massive election fraud. I'm not going to say that there isn't election fraud, but I'm not going to say it like the way Bonta says it. There's no evidence of wide scale. Why did you use the term wide scale? Or, you listen, in other words, there is evidence. He can't deny that no evidence shows up. Of course it does. Yeah, Nick Shirley the other day comes up with document. Look, somebody here has voted 51 times. And they're like, well over 100 years old, apparently. Okay, what that is, let me explain what that is. That document, more than likely, logically, is part of many documents. So that document would have been in, say, probably milk crate-sized boxes. Figure 6 milk crates, maybe 8, full of documents. You're talking a trunk load, flat pickup load, trunk load of documents similar to that are being infused. That's just one example. That's just one example. There's lots of documents out there. And that one's kind of a haphazard document. That's the weird thing. It's kind of a haphazard document. So, there's going to be a bunch of fraud out there. It's done certain ways. There's ways to do this. And but the problem's far larger. I'm not going to say that you won't find things, and I'm not going to say that what you may not find may not change the course of some of these elections. Some of them are really close. Except the end game, as we go into the final stages, I'm just going to tell you the numbers are still not going to be there. Hilton, head of the helm, all the other Republican people jumping in, all the other independents jumping on the bandwagon is still not going to be enough, because we not only have the false documents coming into play, you have decades and decades of illegal sanctuary city operations, where you have people who are diabolically opposed to the Constitution of the United States. They want to overthrow everything. They want to go uptown and rip off the rich folks. You have people making laws. You have to get down to the core level and analyze all these laws these people are making, because it's economic criminology respective to looking into a mass model economic management system. So we're talking about large-scale creation of laws that deliberately, diabolically oppose the Constitution of the United States. We're talking about laws that are designed to destabilize people's lives intentionally. Now, and you're going to have a bunch of people that are making these and they're lying the whole time. They're going, oh, well, it's the rich people and this. Well, let's get into this. Let's be practical, first of all. Anybody who's rich would have a way to basically do what? Oh, well, they could either make the problem financially be tax deductible. They can pay for advisors to help them come up with solutions. So let's step into reality. What's reality? Reality means that what they're claiming, yet what they're doing, they're claiming they're in power, right? And they're claiming that, well, it's just all this problem with this imbalance between the rich and this. So what do? They create a series of laws to destabilize. Except it's not actually destabilizing the rich. The rich are like saying, oh, well, if I can't figure out a way around this, I'm just going to go out of town, right? Right? Okay, I don't want to walk up and slap wealthy people in the face. I don't want to do it. So guess what? I'm not going to do it. Let's put a piece of clear logic on the table. If I have a lot of money, I can figure out ways to dodge around this stuff these people are doing, which means, what are these people doing? In other words, they're not creating laws that are destabilizing rich people. In a way they are, but they're not. The real effect is they're completely obliterating the middle class. Decade after decade after decade. They're obliterating the middle class. Go look at all these different taxes, and so the thing is this: they don't want you to see this exactly how it works on a big mass model. They don't want you to see it like a gamer might see it playing a real-time strategy game. Monitoring, big, huge, gigantic, advanced Sim City game. Wow, the economy gets really screwed up when you do that. Wow. So, again, let's get into the reality. They know that people with money can adjust. So who are they shooting at? Who are they destabilizing? The middle class. They've been deliberately destroying the entire middle class. They've been blacklisting the entire middle class in many, many ways. So I'm a guy with an archive that has researched it, that has all kinds of evidence on this. So what is their solution? To find clever ways to continuously blacklist archivers. Yeah, to shut me down, completely shut me down. I do gig work, Oh, yeah, sometimes, I do a little this, a little that. Okay, so, bottom line, I'm not going to give you all the details of why I do everything the way I do it. There's different reasons. I was beaten half to death by police officers when I was very young. Kind of some really evil people. And, that was not fun. I was, right after that, it was like, I'm having problems with my handwriting, and people are like, yeah, I got a 240 IQ. I'm highly intelligent. So yeah, I'm in the super genius. I won my first scholarship, age 14. I was on my way to get the second one, but the LA school system says we won't allow you to use it. I'm like, well, what's going on here? I was the kind of guy that I'd go into school and so you haven't been here in a week. Here's your test. Good luck. I do the test and they go, all right, how did you cheat? What do you mean? How did you cheat? You're the only person in the whole class that has 100. Nobody got 100 in the whole class. How did you do this? It's on American history. I've already studied the subject fairly thoroughly. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And then they're scratching their head. This is the one thing I don't understand is how could you get a perfect score when nobody in the class got a perfect score? They just can't grasp it. They're boring people to death. They're not giving the best courses. And some of us already advanced. We went through that. He says, look, I've already done that. I'm ready to move on to other stuff. You have no right to inhibit me from moving forward for success, So I end up in a situation, high school, they're questioning stuff. This is, I don't understand. In one class, you're doing brilliant mathematics, and in another class, you're failing. It says, oh, well, they're being boring. They just keep, wrong math, I've already done that. I don't need to keep doing that. You're wasting my time. And they're like, but you can't do that. You have to. I says, no, I don't. I have the right to not allow you to waste my time. So they do all these courses, and I have different teachers come in. And one teacher comes in and says, okay, look, here you go. Here's the test I had him do. Boom. This guy's doing math 4 years more advanced, 5, 6 years more advanced than what that course is there. Look, here you go. Here's the proof. He can do it. Oh, okay, so he's just refusing to do it. No, you're boring him to death. That's one of the teachers, okay? My electronics teacher, which, it's good to go, well, what are you doing in your test? He's like, he's getting a B+, A B+, yeah, he's pretty, he's not quite, I wouldn't call him the best student in the class, but he's B+, And then, they talk to another history teacher, and the history teacher does an interview on me and comes back and says, I talked to this guy for 45 minutes about stuff that I didn't learn until I was in college in advanced courses, and this guy knows all kinds of stuff about it. This guy has the equivalent of probably about a 6-year college education in U.S. history. And they're like, you're kidding. He said, well, here, I tested him. Here's the test right here. Boom, look at this test. That is a college span test right there, to see what he knows about different topics. That takes you right here. This is not a passing score in this section right here, but that's 6 years of college. That level is in 6 years of college, and this guy got 38% on the test. He says, I'll just tell you, basically, that's not possible for high school students to know that unless they spend an awful lot of time studying stuff. And frankly, he probably could have done better. He's distracted today. He's got problems. His parents are in a divorce and all this other stuff, child custody. The guy says, well, what are you going to give him for history? He says, well, I guess since you won't let me give him an A, I'll give him a B+ because he didn't do all the homework. So it's like, they're like, this is amazing, So the teachers the school had to accept that to a certain point. Now, I was upset because these people are still blocking me from going anyplace. We have our school system it's a nightmare. They spend, $480,000, 13 years of schooling, and 56% of students become burger flippers. And in 3 years, that number is going to get cut in half because of all of these robotics. This is not a game. This is not a game. People have the right. Kids, parents, you have a right not to be swindled. Give me a break. Oh, look, here, we spent $500,000. We present your child. Look, they made it to Burger Flipper. Oh, no. Let's call the cops. This is a con job. These people are criminals. We have to address this. This doesn't work. This is not working, So so we have these people that are basically swindling. They're doing mass fraud all over the place. They're creating conundrums, huge mechanisms that don't need to exist. They're using it to shuffle cash around. It's a massive fraud operation. Doesn't need to exist. It's horrible. It's just horrible. So, so here we have other areas where they're blacklisting people. You can't possibly win an election when these people are tapping in and they're screwing everybody's devices around. You switch an algorithm and you're inundated by ads that have nothing to do with subjects that you like, that are endlessly going to waste your time. Oh, look, here's a nice drive-by shooting video. Why don't you look at that? Oh, here, look at some of this. Here's the cops doing their job, finally getting the bad guy. Isn't this interesting to watch? And people are like, I'm trying to learn something and get educated. It's not that I'm not sympathetic that this guy over here shot a cop, but why are these things constantly being forced on me? What that is that's a form of reverse deception. Here, let's give priority to items, and all the old people will like it because, see, then they'll feel secure. Because the outcome of the little mini story is, yes, see, they caught the bad guy. Don't you feel secure? People are doing their job. That's really nice, but you're wasting my time because most of them, quite frankly, are already willing to be doing their job anyhow. Unless they're being told not to do their job. And of course, that's a factor all unto itself. They don't have the resources they need. They don't have the money that they need. They don't have the diversity they need. They're not getting the right equipment. They're not even allowed to investigate certain areas. I mean, spies from other countries come in and victimize all the time. And many of the people that get victimized are victimized at the local level. But local level is being told they're not allowed to investigate. And federal level, in many cases, would say, oh, well, you have to get a local report. Well, local's not allowed. Well, it's a jurisdictional problem. Okay, wait a minute. What are you saying here? Oh, well, write us a letter and maybe we'll put it in a folder, and 6 weeks later we'll review it, and then give us 3 or 4 weeks to make a decision on whether we're going to go after it. And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. What is this? So, and then you have other people say, no, we want to go after this kind of stuff all the time. So you have this fight at federal levels where you have people saying these Democrats have been squashing actionable evidence or twisting it, taking good evidence and then somehow twisting it and fabricating it into something else. Why is that? Because there's spies constantly all over the place. The FBI fired like almost 180 people in 1 year alone. Suspected spies. And I investigated that. It was kind of interesting. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, they were absolutely sure pretty much that 50% of them were spies, but there was a common number. Certain people were in the room when certain stuff got stolen, and to be sure that there's never a breach again, if you can't tell which one, you get rid of both the people. So one was guilty and one was, well, either guilty or innocent. So that you end up with that statistic. So people, tactical table wise, okay, I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm not trying to be evil. I'm just telling you, I understand more about how people are rigging elections than you might think. My priority is I've come under violent attack on my archives. Okay, as a candidate in previous elections, these parties have involved themselves in some very serious stuff, interfering with both state and federal elections against a candidate, blacklisting me. They're busted red-handed. They're all disqualified. But how is it possible that I keep putting information out on the web and people aren't coming up going, oh, this stuff is great. We got to do something about it. We got to do something about it. That's not happening. Why is that not happening? Well, there's a factor. Some people go, well, I don't want to get involved because then they'll blacklist me. Well, thank you. There's other people saying, look, I keep trying to visit your site and make comments, and the web doesn't work right. Blacklisting, algorithmic blacklisting. So for the most part, most people are stuck in some form or level of algorithmic kidnapping. I'm not joking. So if it's analyzed by AIs. You have AIs writing all this stuff, and if somebody starts talking the wrong way, they can start getting blacklisted. So this is something that's really interesting, and there's ways around it to a certain point, and that is to say that if you're typing in the exact address and it happens to be 17 characters long, you get to it. And once you have the link to it, you can always go back to it. But people looking the first time, they don't get to the site. They don't necessarily get to the site. You have to pay. You have to do advertising usually to pay. It's very rare for stuff to go viral. There's something totally wrong with the viralism. Totally wrong. So we have all these people trying to figure out how to make money on advertising, and they no longer care about the free flow of information, which is the law, respective to the web. So it's simple in many ways. You can imagine before the election's getting ready to start, before any paperwork is allowed to be filled out, you're like, oh, well, who's declared? Let's see who's upcoming as a possible candidate. Who's declared? The system is blacklisting people already. It doesn't show you a list of people who have declared to run for governor that's 300 people or more long. It doesn't do that. Why not? It's called blacklisting. It's called algorithmic imprisonment and isolation. So I'm a guy, hey, look, I got 9 YouTube sites or whatever, 9 YouTube and websites. How is it that when people were typing in I want to see who's running for governor or president, my name doesn't end up on the first page? It did before. It used to. Way back during Jerry Brown, it would come up on the first page, and people from the Brown campaign. I get a notice from Google that says that the Jerry Brown people are very upset. They don't understand how I'm placed right beneath him on the first page list. I think they were also upset that in the first 3 pages that I was showing up multiple times, and they just, well, who's this guy? Their noses were all bent sideways. And Google says, well, we're basically ordered. We're going to have to do something about it. So we're going to change the way the algorithm works. So what they were saying, let me just nutshell this to you. So no matter what kind of tags or what kind of ways I do stuff right, they're always going to blacklist me. Always. So, and tags don't matter anymore. None of this stuff really is going to matter much anymore because ultimately they're still going to do the blacklist. Welcome to what's wrong with elections in California. They can change the percentage approach curve of how these algorithms work to blacklist people, to waste their time, to block them from being participants and understanding the information of what's going on. And people for years, you have a bunch of people for years, oh, don't get stuck on the web. It's all screwed up. Yeah. We don't do that. I don't stream this, that, and the other thing. But the problem is we're in a modern world, and the way information passes is through some form of communicative device. So we also have the media. Why isn't the media? I mean, I've been putting out some of the strongest evidence of articles violation in modern history. The media doesn't seem to be interested in it. Why is that? How can you catch people red-handed committing treason? And ABC or NBC is not interested. Kind of strange, ain't it? Kind of strange, just to see how it goes. There are experiments that I would do sometimes. Experiments to see how things would turn out, and just to see who's who and what's what and how things are transpiring, and look at the curve. Just check how these curves are changing. And I'm telling you, it's virtually impossible, that for Hilton to be able to come up with more points than what's on the board right now, because he's looking at a 63 point curve situation. So where's he going to come up with yet again an extra 35 points? Okay, oh, well, the Chad people will vote for him. That's 10. After that, it's real slim. Gets real slim. But I have the evidence to immediately lock all these people up and disqualify them. The problem is, it disqualifies everybody associated with the ticket. That means anyone who was appointed or hired. That means every judge that was appointed is disqualified. So I go into court and the judges look at this and go, I can't handle this case because I'll get fired. I'll lose my retirement. Gee, is this judge going to sabotage the case? Hello? You go in another court and say, hey, look, we got to do this. I need to pick a judge. Oh, we have to do a rotary. You're not allowed to do this. Well, part of the case is naming some of these judges. They're named in the case. They can't be allowed to have anything to do with possibly having a hand to disqualify them. Oh, well, we have a rotary. It has to be done this way. It's the law. No, not when you have article violations. So when you have clerks and you have all the people in the building no longer adhering to the United States constitutional law mandates and understanding how to handle an articles violation case, you're completely being shut out. What about the prosecutorial? What about these prosecutorial guys? These prosecutorial guys are either scared or saying, well, if we started cases like this and then Bonta comes in and shuts us down or tries to shut us down. You look at Chad, he eventually found a judge. Yeah, that's a real anomaly there. Yeah, I'll sign off on that. Go ahead and seize those ballots. And what's the problem? I mean, yeah, he's going to count them, okay? Yeah, let's just count them. We'll count these. Oh, you don't like the count? Well, we can do the count again. Oh, you still don't like the count? Oh, okay, let's do the count again. These other people's point is they want to gain control of them and destroy them. That's what they do. They want to count ballots in a very narrow period of time, and then they want to destroy them all so no one can ever review anything and figure out what's happened. Why is that? Gee. So, yeah, there's no logic there. Bersavier, very threatening item he comes out with towards Chad. I'm like, it was like so low, and then on top of that, see, the thing is Xavier is associated with other administrations that have attacked my campaigns that are associated with article violations. What does that mean? He's disqualified. Bonta's disqualified. Shirley Weber disqualified. No joke. Okay. Gavin Newsom disqualified. He's in my house. He needs to get out of my house. He's disqualified. I'm the guy that got attacked, and I was the last man standing. Boom. By default, I'm the governor. But nobody wants to adhere to the Constitution of the United States. They don't want to stick by the actual true rules. Come on, If you're going to play cards, you play cards by the rules, right? That's generally how it's done, So, you could try to bend the rules a little bit, but, funny thing is, some places, well, we have a house rule, this. Okay. You decided to play there, that's okay. Except when it comes to the Constitution, we have what's known as the Constitution of the United States and federal law. And we have the supremacy of these items. Inescapable. So we have the evidence to deal with the biggest problems. The biggest problems are the secret city report type stuff of what's been going on. And this is where the funny activity is. So you have maybe California sponsoring a whole bunch of extra special ways to do things that Pratt didn't know about, right? Pratt didn't know about some of these other things. People go, oh, well, yeah, he could have done the same thing. Where was he? When and where was he going to get the disclosure? Which packet particularly was that maintained in? I'm just saying, as far, but see, let me get this down to you, okay? If we go through all of this, you'd find enough fraud to get Pratt into second place. You would. But what's going to happen in the next election? The next election is going to have an inundation of people connected that basically are either brainwashed by a bunch of foreign money that's come into the country by Marxists and communists and socialists that are diabolically opposing the Constitution, that want to bring forth nothing but policies that destroy the middle class. Why? Once again, let's review it real quick. Rich people can make adjustments. You have money. You can hire people. You can realize assessments and make whatever decision needs to be made to deal with these people's ridiculous logic. You know, if it's okay, these people have finally done something that's so unfair that we can never ever make money. Well, we're just gonna have to leave town. You know, so these other people, all they're doing is a scam and a jam. Scam and jam. They are deliberately destabilizing people's lives. Okay, you know, so you know, we've established beyond the shadow of a doubt, if you're wealthy, you have options, and you can basically find ways to make yourself immune. Okay, what's next below that? Okay, we've got the truth about options for rich people. Okay, so who else is getting inundated? Mass destabilization of the entire middle class. They're stuck. So you have all these other people that are trying for some reason to justify what these people are doing, and they have a serious math problem. They're getting hit. Their lives are being utterly destroyed. But there's a whole class of people that are poor that come to the country that diabolically oppose the Constitution of the United States. And they're like, yeah, we want to vote. Yeah. You know, who comes to the country? People that are thieves, people that are murderers. Let's see, people that are with